everybody, Gunnison Undercover here. Today is Sunday, March 29th, 2020. Time is 4:25 Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So we got a story here that was posted on the Monmouth County Republican Committee Facebook page, and it has to do with the party boss, better known as Sheriff Sean Golden of the Monmouth County Sheriff's Department. Yes, that's right. He is in charge of the Republican Party here in Monmouth County, and he is in charge of the Monmouth County Sheriff's Department. So they posted a little story here about the sheriff. He's unhappy about the early release. What they're doing here in the county, or I think probably across the state, I believe, is they're trying to figure out ways to clear out the jails a little bit, so that they don't have anybody in there that doesn't necessarily need to be there because of the con virus. And apparently Mr. Golden is a little upset about this because, as you know, if they take the prisoners is business for them. I mean, if nobody's in the jail, then I guess they got to send the sheriff, the deputies, the correction officers all home, right? So here's the story right here. And let me scroll that up a little bit just for you. There he is. That's Sean Golden. He's looking a little fat these days. I guess he's been going out to a lot of Republican fundraisers, and he's getting a little pudgy in the face. So let's read what this says, and then I'm going to play the video for you, and we'll come back and we'll talk about it. It says, Sheriff Sean Golden on Fox News this evening speaking on the release of inmates from county jails. He says, unacceptable. It is absurd that this court order to release inmates includes cases such as failure to register as a sex offender, child endangerment, resisting arrest, assault on our law enforcement officers with no regard for the victim. Sean Golden. Well, whoop-de-doo for him. There he is. Look at him. Mr. Publicity Hound himself. He'll never walk away from a camera, will he? This guy so desperately wants to be the governor of this state, or probably a senator. He wants to do something. I definitely know he wants to go out to trend. All right, so I'm going to play a video for you. I want you to watch it, and then we'll come back. This is the video that aired on Fox News.
In New Jersey, hundreds of low-impact, quote, low-impact nonviolent offenders have been released in order to prevent the spread of this disease. Sean Golden is the sheriff of Monmouth County, and he joins me now. Sheriff, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, called this a groundbreaking program. Do you consider this a groundbreaking program?
Well, listen, if you consider it groundbreaking when we're releasing inmates that have records of assaulting officers and resisting arrest and some sex offenses, failure to register for sex offender type offenses, then I guess you could call it groundbreaking. Listen, we across the state of New Jersey received a letter from the ACLU on the 20th. Certainly it went to an order to show cause immediately in the courts. It was fast-tracked over the weekend. By the 23rd, we had to have a list of offenders, the quote-unquote low-impact nonviolent offenders, to be released out into the communities. And when you looked at that list, here in Monmouth County was 6,400s in the state of New Jersey, as you know, almost 900. And you looked at that list, and it had some of those offenses on it. And that's why, I thought it was absurd to release inmates that are still fulfilling a sentence of where law enforcement were injured in particular cases. One was an assault on a canine dog. The other was throwing fluids at a law enforcement officer for resisting arrest. Again, others failure to register as sex offenders. And I'm sure when we released them in a sarcastic way, they went out and registered, Martha. So, this is an exploitation of a policy that certainly was pushed with an agenda and rapidly through the Supreme Court here in New Jersey.
That was a lot of gas coming out of him. Maybe that's why he's so bloated. It's full of hot wind. So here's my point of this video. He's crying. They're using the excuse, we got sex offenders in there. We've got somebody hurt one of our canine dogs, probably kicked the dog in the teeth when it was trying to rip his arm off or something, or biting his leg. Who knows? But he makes it sound like everybody in the county jail is a deplorable, and that may not be the case. I think some people just get caught up in the system. They did something stupid, and as we all know, the system wants to profit off of them. And I think one of the things that they're trying to do is the low-risk people, let's get them out of the prison, out of the cells, so we can free it up and try to keep this con virus under control. So, he's flapping his jaws about that. But what he doesn't tell you is he doesn't seem to have a problem with former police sergeant from Howell Township, Sergeant Richard Conte, who also headed up the Monmouth County SWAT team and no doubt was a good buddy with Mr. Golden. Let's read the story about what Mr. Conte did in case some of you don't remember. Mr. Conte was caught in a sting operation. He was having sexual conversations with a young girl he thought was a young girl. I believe it was through Craigslist, maybe. I think that's how it was. Anyway, the person posing at the other end said that they were a 15-year-old girl and they were looking to have fun. And Mr. Conte fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, and he was caught. He showed up to meet up with this, what he believed to be a 15-year-old girl. He brought condoms with him, and he had stated to her, according to the article that I've read that's out there, that he wanted to lay naked with a 15-year-old. Now, this guy's well into his 40s. He's not the greatest looking guy in the world. And when he was caught and they frisked him down and checked his pockets and everything, he had condoms in his pockets. So that certainly implied he thought he was going to have sex, or at least maybe he wanted to have sex. But he got caught. There was also other information that I obtained that alleged that he was using the Howell Township Police Department computers to arrange his little date. Now, you're probably saying, well, what's this have to do with Mr. Golden not wanting to let loose inmates from the Monmouth County Jail? Well, Mr. Conte has never spent one day in jail. He is home on house arrest, sitting there and enjoying his life, waiting to go to court. He did get fired from his job, but my point is that this is a man who was arrested for child predator charges, and Mr. Golden has no problem in him being home. I didn't see Mr. Golden get on the Facebook page or on the news and say, you know what, I object to Mr. Conte being home. This is despicable what happened. Nope, not a peep from him. Nothing. So you see the double standard that he's not okay with regular people getting out of jail, but he's okay with one of the soldiers never spending a day in jail and sitting home in the meanwhile, figuring out how he's going to get out of the deal. And let me just say this. There was other people caught up in that sting operation, and two of them about a month or so ago were sentenced, and they got some jail time. In the meanwhile, Mr. Conte, I can't get an answer from anyway. The New Jersey Attorney General's office is prosecuting it. Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office avoids the subject. They will not answer my question. They tell me to go pound sand when I ask. I've asked the Attorney General's office. They don't answer. They don't respond. And last I heard, Mr. Conte was getting some doctor's help. He was getting, I'm sure he's seen a psychiatrist and he's on medication. And I'm sure when he goes to court, he'll be a victim just like every other cop when they go to court and they're in trouble. They're always a victim. It's always the stress of the job. And, he just didn't have the support system he needed. It's all bullshit. We all know it's bullshit. But you know what's bullshit is Mr. Golden getting up there and crying about other people when one of his own soldiers who got caught red-handed trying to prey on a 15-year-old, would have turned out to be a cop. He got caught, had to spend a day in jail, and Mr. Golden doesn't seem to be worried about that, folks. All right, let me know what you think about that story there in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. And as always, people, watch them. Don't believe anything they tell you. They're so full of hot wind. It's like I shake my head every time I hear one of them talk, because when you stop and you start watching them and you start taking notes like I've been doing and following what's going on, you start to realize how full of crap most of these people are, particularly on this county level here in Monmouth County. The nepotism, the cronyism, And the self-serving crap that goes on out there at the Monmouth County government level is astonishing, to say the least. Till next time, people.